So we left off comparing, juxtaposing Athens and Sparta, and we started to look at the women in both places and their role, gender roles in society. And you're going to look more at that, some primary documents from Spartan women and Athenian women to continue that in a little bit. But let's continue looking at Greece and its really interesting history. Um, some war and conflict to look at next, and we'll get back to intellectual Greece and social Greece as well. But in terms of war, political Greece, these city-states are going to become more formidable, more powerful. They are going to expand and colonize throughout the Mediterranean. One of the places that there are going to be Greeks is Ionia here. You can see this is Asia Minor, Anatolia, what will become Turkey. But the Persian Empire that we studied, remember Darius, is going to come and conquer this territory and take over this region here where there are Greeks. And these Greeks are going to repel, and this is going to cause conflict. We're going to have two Greco-Persian wars, so Greek-Persian wars. The first one will be in 490. Remember, this is BCE. And this is Darius. Remember Darius and satraps? Okay, he is going to launch a huge force on this region. And they're going to, this is the Battle of Marathon. Remember, the Athenian victory will be run back 26 point some miles, they say. So the first significant Greco Persian war is going to be Marathon in 490, and it's going to end in Greek Athenian victory. And the next one is 480 BCE, and this is Xerxes. And this is the famous Thermopylae battle where 300 or so Spartans in this very narrow canyon pass are going to hold off many Persians and buy time for Greek forces to escape. Unfortunately, Greek lets the Persians know about another pass so that they can flank the Spartans, a Greek traitor, and that will spell doom for the Spartans. But this is more of a naval battle as well, but it's going to spell defeat for the Persians again. So these city-states, it's not even a whole Greece. They're city-states. They have to form alliances, and they're able to beat back these huge Persian naval and infantry forces that descend on these city-states in Greece. So there is unity and alliances that are formed. And so what's going to happen is after this Greco-Persian War, one of the city-states is going to become more powerful and flex its muscles more so, and that is Athens. And you can see the yellow. They're going to form an alliance called the Delian League. And initially this league, this alliance, this trade alliance, defensive alliance is kind of supposed to be even, but in terms of the participation of Greek city-states. But Athens is going to usurp that role and become more powerful and have leading positions. And it's really going to benefit them with tax income off the trade and whatnot. So Athens becomes powerful. And during this, one Greek Athenian leader, Pericles, a general, is going to become a very important leader. And again, he's a general, but he really is going to push for democracy. And his innovations are going to include paying people to serve in their posts. So I know there aren't dollars back then, but why is paying people important in terms of democracy? in paying them to have government positions, he's also going to pay jurors to serve on juries. Why is that important for a democracy? Because that allows people that don't have the ability, financial ability to, leave their farm or whatnot and serve in the government. It allows them to do so because they're paid an additional stipend. So it lets people that don't have the financial means serve in government. Now, we would be not totally accurate if we don't comment on this democracy again. Even though under Pericles, there are people with less financial capabilities serving in government positions, this is still a government where the most powerful positions are going to be run by aristocrats and wealthy people. And remember, Athenian democracy is only for property owners. Women have no role in it. Foreigners have no role in it. Slaves have no role in it. So, at its greatest extent, only about a third of the population is participating in Athenian democracy. One other thing I want to look at with the Delian League and Athens becoming more powerful and fluxing its economic might is something called the Thucydides trap. And Thucydides is a historian, and after kind of Herodotus, we're going to talk about Herodotus, and he looks at the Peloponnesian War. This is where we're headed. Peloponnesian War between Athens and Sparta. And his thesis is whenever you have two powers, the hegemony. So hegemonic power, this is an important, history word. Hegemonic power means the dominant, international power. At this time, after the Greco-Persian War, Sparta is still considered the power. But who is the upstart? Athens. And Thucydides says that whenever you have these two powers, a hegemonic power like Sparta is challenged by a rising power like Athens. What is inevitable? What is inevitable? War. So this is interesting because he's a historian that actually looks at causes, and Herodotus is considered the father of Western history, but Thucydides is going to be really looked at as the first objective historian that really looks for causation in events. And his trap is going to be compared today to what two countries? What is the international hegemonic power? The USA. Which is the rival upstart? China. And so if this is applied to today, there are those in the international relations experts that will use this kind of logic to say, yes, war is inevitable between US and China if you apply the Thucydides trap to it. Nonetheless, transition, we have the Peloponnesian War being fought between Sparta and Athens. And Athens is the naval power. Sparta is the infantry power. And by far the greater military presence. And so during the Peloponnesian War, the Athenians are going to realize that they cannot take the Spartans on in hand-to-hand combat. So what they're going to do is retreat inside the walls of Athens. And you can see the years here for the Peloponnesian War up in the left-hand corner. Okay, so 431 to 404. It's a long war, but early on, Athens is going to suffer great defeat because a plague strikes Athens in the second year of the Peloponnesian War in 430 BCE. And it's going to be pretty devastating because remember, they're within their walls, held up. Pericles is also going to die, which is this great statesman that is going to die. And that's going to be very consequential. So eventually Sparta will defeat Athens, and there will be rivalry between Athens and Sparta and conflict and friction. And pretty soon we're going to also have Macedonia come into play and battle for hegemony of this Greek peninsula. So Peloponnesian War fought between Sparta and Athens ends in Athenian defeat. It's important to realize all of the intellectual accomplishments going on. This is Raphael's School of Athens, and we want to talk about Socrates and Plato and Aristotle. And Socrates, really, really quickly, the Socratic method, considered the gadfly of Athens. He's ultimately charged and convicted of corrupting the youth and is sentenced to death. He's a gadfly, this bother, who will just question and question, usually elite, and make them realize they have no idea what they're talking about and embarrass them. And his student Plato, we're looking at the Republic with the final project. Something else that you should be aware of with Plato, not only interested in forms of government, but the allegory of the cave, Plato, basically, and I really quickly, someone is chained in a dark cave and there's fire behind them and shadows, and they can see these shadows and they're chained and they think shadows are their reality, but then the chains are broken and they come out of the cave and they see what really exists, and it's too much for them to overcome. Really what Plato is saying is we have ideas within us that we need to unveil. Aristotle is going to be more, and don't trust your senses. Plato says don't trust your senses. Aristotle is going to say trust your senses, go out and see the world and classify and organize, and he's going to be incredibly important for Western science. So we're going to look and juxtapose Plato and Aristotle in a little bit in excerpts. We talked about Herodotus, the father of Western history, Thucydides. We have plays, right? Arts, dramas, tragedy, comedy, the poems, epic poems, Homer early on. What we need to get out of this school of Athens is humanism. And the idea of Socrates and Plato and Aristotle, that there's this idea of reason, and we can know things, and we can know things about the world, and trust our reason. And even though the gods are going to be influential in Athens, that we can start to know things ourselves, and not everything is dependent on the gods. And this idea of humanism and reason is going to lead to the European Renaissance and the scientific revolution. Copernicus and the Enlightenment, John Locke and the French Revolution, and just on and on. So very, very important, okay? I also want to say this dude right here, he may not look happy, Karl Jaspers, but really interesting guy, German, Swiss, who is going to propose this idea of the axial age. Please write this down. I find this fascinating. It varies. Your book is going to say it's 700 to 300, but I've seen 900 to 200 BCE. And the axial age, this incredibly important age, where in East Asia you have Confucianism and Taoism, in South Asia you have Hinduism and Buddhism, in Palestine you have Hebrew monotheism, in Persia you have Zoroastrianism, in Greece you have humanism, reason, Greek reason, rationalism. It is an incredible period of intellectual fervor that the world is still influenced by. So axial age, the incredible religions and philosophies that the world is still influenced by, takes place in this age. Incredible. And then lastly, when Sparta and Athens are going to basically rip the city-states in conflict, Macedonia, Philip II will take advantage of that, and his son Alexander the Great will conquer a territory from Egypt to India. Remember, Indian officials have political influence. And what's important about this is not his war battles, but his Greek influence of language and architecture and philosophy. And remember, the Gandhara Buddha.